Hi everyone. I want to share with you today a little more of an insight into the commercial illustration job that I've been working on for a client in America. It creates a range of products based around hemp as the primary ingredient. Now, these products also include a range of other botanical components. And so he was looking for an illustrator to create a classically timeless ink illustration in black and white that really captures the essence of his product, his business, and his vision. Now, this wonderful project is complete, but I wanted to take a little moment to take a deeper look at the process of this project coming together. It has been a wonderful opportunity for me to enjoy a change of medium, but also to be a part of my client's exciting new project. I absolutely love collaborations like this. It gives me an opportunity to step outside of my usual medium and realm and my own headspace, bringing enormous personal and professional growth whilst helping my clients to really bring their visions to life. And this gives me a very real sense of satisfaction in the work that I do. This business, and of course the brief, revolves around hemp being at the heart of our focus for this illustration, which will be used for the company's product packaging and far beyond. And it will be embellished by a really gorgeous, brightly coloured and eye-catching metallic lettering feature to counter the simplicity of the illustration's styling really beautifully. For the illustration itself, I've designed it in a way that gives my client the broadest versatility and options for its use as possible, which is always important for commercial applications. So he can utilize or apply this illustration in a large or small context with multi-directional options or as a repeating pattern. When my client first reached out to me, he gave me a really brief overview of what he was hoping for, describing it as a black and white ink illustration, including a range of complex botanical subjects, which was all very familiar territory to me. Speaking to my client, our alignment seemed so immediately clear, and with our direction clarified, we got started working on this project very soon after. The illustration measures 35 by 50 centimeters. We decided to upscale the artwork a little bit because working in a traditional form of illustration, rather than a more modern approach, I wanted to give my client as much scope to apply this illustration to different applications, as I mentioned. And of course, with commercial illustration, versatility is so important. And on lots of levels, the design component itself requires fairly broad consideration to avoid problems down the track for them. And this knowledge and experience is a big component of why these clients approach someone with the experience that I have. So getting back to the concept of this illustration, my client wanted to include botanical elements, a cut-through background to black with lots of depth and layers of botanicals, with the more you look, the more you see kind of feeling to it. Intricacy, details, bees, honeycomb, papaya, citrus, grapes, hemp leaves, peaches and strawberries was on the list. And of course, he very much won me over at the word intricacy. And of course, I was very much lost in my own little world by the time the mention of bees came up. And the rest is history. So with the rough idea mapped out, I began the process of subject selection, really narrowing my options down to single subjects or a very limited amount of subjects to work from. And from there I began creating the composition, considering my balance, the flow of the picture overall, the relationship in the composition of element to element, the tone, the depth, and the textures. This is a really slow and thoughtful process to create a concept from nothing, especially when it has to align with another's imagination rather than your own, as well as the commercial applications and considerations that an artwork will require. But this is something that I absolutely love. With my structure in place for the composition, I then began to embellish the layout, giving deeper thought and consideration to the more finer aspects of this story. Once I had the structure in, I felt like it needed a little bit more romance or softness to the elements, or the combination of elements, than what I originally had. So I went ahead and incorporated the papaya and the citrus blossoms to bring an additional degree of intricacy and luxuriousness that I wanted to reflect in the balance. And the addition of the figs, although incredibly, almost ridiculously challenging and time-consuming to render for me, seemed like such a perfect complement and textural conclusion to the mix of elements. Fortunately, the client agreed, and so I went ahead and made the last of the refinements before starting the first stage of the drawing. With the drawing complete, it was time to start the very long process of converting the graphite to ink, capturing the design now with confident and really accurate strokes, bolder in the depths and much, much finer in the areas of subtlety. Again, this process takes a lot of time, but one stroke at a time, I'd soon created my foundation and the structure of my design, giving me a very clear path forward for the rendering process. It's definitely precision work with no room for error. In fact, it is as black and white as the drawing itself. But on the upside, this is the time where we truly get lost in our illustration, splitting the hairs more and more as I go to create the refinement and intricacy that I'm seeking in this drawing. Once my line work is complete, the best place to start is to fill in the black cut-through areas behind the elements, because this brings so much more clarity to the definition and placement of your elements, and it starts to give you a really clear estimation of your range of tone as well. In the same way that I teach my watercolor to students, we're always being mindful to map a clear direction forward out for us in each stage, and this is no different. Aside from which, it's exciting to see this bold step into the black. So this refinement begins creating texture and tone, one solid black line at a time. And it's really quite incredible to think about the depth, complexity, and variation you can achieve within your tone using nothing more than a solid black ink. Layering develops the tone, creating a vast range from the delicate white of the papaya and the citrus flowers to the jet black of the cut-throughs behind. The crazy papaya seeds create a really perfect transition of this richness, along with the amazing textures that these features bring. It is an absolute nightmare to render, but so incredibly captivating at the same time, watching the emergence of this wonderful element with every stroke and seed. The romance of the figs was as beautiful as I'd hoped in the composition. My thoughts easily slipping away into the incredible whimsical depths of this feature. The honeycomb drifting right throughout this illustration creates such a uniqueness despite the challenge of its structure in the rendering, whilst clusters of my rich grapes really punctuate the scene with their pop of light and dark, bringing a real ribboning flow to the balance of this composition with it. And the citrus once again brings gorgeous structure and new texture to the table too. Finally, our hemp leaves weave beautifully throughout the elements from the foreground into the background in a really lovely, varying range of tones and their wonderful textures too. So we have a beautiful amount of diversity of texture and tone in this piece. So one step at a time and one element at a time, this beautiful illustration begins to emerge, and I become more and more connected with this illustration and more familiar with the sidestep into ink as my medium. updates from my client were very encouraging right from the start. It's honestly looking so stunning. I love it. I appreciate your dedication, and that this has vastly exceeded my expectations. It was a really beautiful acknowledgement of the efforts that go into creating this work and honouring my craft as I do. And so I hope you'll enjoy this little insight into the behind the scenes process of this kind of commercial illustration project coming to life. From here, it leaves my hands, of course, but there is something incredibly satisfying and fun to pass my work over to the design team's hands and to see my illustration rebirth into endless, varied, and beautiful applications, enhancing my clients' business and products so beautifully. This has been such a fun sidestep into all the things that I love in this perfect collaboration, and I'll definitely be back soon to share the next stage of this project as they come to light. I thank you for being here, for following along with my work, and for all the support and company you bring to every journey.